Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing in front of you is 5 book quotes that we are going to go through with ChatGPT and have a conversation about all of them. And I did select these quotes from books that I'm currently reading. So I haven't finished and made a full conclusive argument whether I am for or against the author's claims. And also, some of these books I haven't read in a few weeks, right? Because I tend to read multiple books at once. So some of these quotes here I haven't seen in a while. So I think it'll be interesting to kind of have GPT talk about them. In particular, what I like to do on my website and on my channel is I can just show you. So what I like to do is have these chats with GPT and name it a chat with GPT. Kind of talk about the API parameters that I sent in using ChatGPT MD. It's all front matter. Then I usually have been focused recently on taking an idea and then a quote and getting app ideas for it. And I guess like a good conversational point might be, well, why are app ideas interesting? Like, right? Like what is it about app ideas that I think is like pretty unique? So I think the thing that I would like to point out is that there is computation that happens within quotes. And I think that in a way, we don't really recognize this because when we're reading something, we're kind of attending to the patterns of the author and trying to decide if we agree or disagree with their claim, right? So, for example, this is a fiction quote, right? From Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. But let's see what happens when GPT tries to come up with something computational, which is like a program, right? Something that has like a halting point, something that stops and has a certain functionality that's repeatable from a quote. So there are some things that you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them. So this quote's just very fun. You know, it kind of calls back to when Harry and Ron, well, it doesn't even call back, it literally is when Harry and Ron fought the mountain troll in the bathroom to save Hermione, and that's how they all became friends, right? So GPT takes this idea and then kind of thinks, okay, what are some apps that people might put on their phone or run on their computer or any other computational device? And it comes up with a number of ones that are actually kind of interesting, right? So this first one here, Troll Battle App, is a multiplayer game inspired by the Harry Potter quote where users can challenge friends or strangers to, excuse me, to battle a 12-foot mountain troll. The game could have different levels, challenging obstacles, and rewards for those who successfully defeat the troll and make new connections. Kind of like social media. Well, I guess kind of similar to like more of like an MMO where you group up and you raid together, but with more focus on making new connections that you're actually going to stay friends with. But yeah, very similar to the kind of World of Warcraft. And it's interesting that GPT was able to pick up on that, right? Troll Trek app, a hiking, biking, trail finding app that helps users discover scenic route through mountains or other terrains where they may encounter trolls or at least some resemblance of them. Users can share their experience with others on the app while building new friendships over their love of adventure. So to me, this sticks out as like an augmented reality app, but also, you know, like imagine that you have your like phone out and you're like seeing these locations in front of you, and you know there's a Snapchat troll in front of you, right? It also kind of references the idea of Bigfoot, right, and that kind of idea, which is again interesting, right? Because it's like, oh, you're in the mountain troll, and a mountain troll is obviously related to kind of like Bigfoot. Bridge Builder app, an interactive puzzle solving game that requires players to collaborate in order to build bridges across treacherous terrain, much like how Harry Potter and his friends had to band together against the mountain troll. Players must work together to virtually construct sturdy bridges before time runs out. This is again similar to this, but I actually kind of like the Bridge Builder one more. It kind of reminds me of doing CAD in middle school and like kind of having to like figure out how to make the bridges that the trucks can go across without breaking, even though it was kind of fun just to sit there and make the trucks fall off the bridge, right? Because you're just putting weight in all the wrong places or trying to use the least amount of metal. kindness troll app. Inspired by J.K. Rowling's message of about what it takes for people to end up liking each other, this social platform encourages users from all walks of life to offer acts of kindness to one another as a means of bridging differences between cultures, religions, ethnicities, celebrating diversity while simultaneously promoting social unity in our increasingly divisive world. So it's interesting that it chose the name kindness troll because, troll obviously alludes to kind of like online troll, and generally people stay away from online trolls because they tend to like to cause harm. But it would be interesting to kind of like have this kindness troll app, right? Musical trolls. This reminded me of musical chairs. And as you could tell here, this one is the one that I ended up going with. But this is an interactive music making application where everyone collaborates in real time to create unique melodies featuring voices imitating troll noises and sounds. Similar to when Ron Weasley played Wizard Chess, it could potentially create funny moments along musicians worldwide, whilst exploring entirely novel genres within contemporary music, making practice in today's digital age. I like this just because it's like, it's ridiculous, right? Like, I find that, like, with this new LLM writing apps space world that we're about to enter, and you'll see a bunch of people on Twitter being like, it wrote an iOS app in 5 fucking minutes. It's crazy. I feel like we need more ridiculous apps, right? Like the 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 kind of impetus of being a software engineer for the past couple years, or past couple years longer than the past couple years, is because of the difficulty of it, and because of the difficulty of making a new app and building something from scratch. um, Usually you only do it for very serious endeavors, or endeavors where you think that you can make a lot of money from. And I just find that it's so nice to have LLMs be able to do all that boilerplate coding work, as well as doing some of the project management, as well as doing the maintenance of code, right? To make it so that people can just focus on having fun. So, what would be a good stack for musical trolls? Again, this is interesting because as me as a programmer, when I think of stacks, I think of like, okay, you have your back end, you have your front end, you have your database decision, you have a lot of these decisions that kind of have long term consequences. But it's really interesting that there's been a lot of discourse on the web. Everyone has seen blog posts and stuff from Hacker News where it's like, this is why I use this database instead of this database, or this is why I use this front end instead of this front end. And being able to kind of like synthesize all that data and say like, oh, hey, this is a stack, but also maybe lean it in terms of like potential preferences is really cool. So for the musical trolls app, a good stack could be a front end with React Native, right? Because it realized that this is going to be a mobile app, because you're going to probably be singing into your microphone on your phone. So this will allow for easy and fast developments of mobile apps that can both work on iOS and Android, which is true, right? Node.js with Express. Node is a efficient backtime with a JS environment, while Express simplifies creating APIs. Express is very old, very common use, check there as well. Real-time collaboration, Socket.io, in between users and creating melodies is a key success of this app, using Socket.io as a real-time engine to ensure seamless communication. Also agree with this. WebSockets would probably be the decision that I would make as well, either by using something like Socket.io or going into like the kind of like, I'm trying to remember the name of it in WebAssembly. I think there's another WebSocket thing that I've used before in the past, but Socket.io is a very popular library. MongoDB, or a Firetime real-time database. Generally these days, I've actually been kind of like on my SQL cold brew, kind of like dark coffee thing, but I think Firebase is still very popular. I haven't really used Mongo in a while. These are flexible NoSQL databases that can handle large amount of data, will make it perfect for storing created melodies, right? And I think that this is important, right? Is that we're going to be storing a lot of audio blobs. And then finally, cloud storage, AWS cloud, Google Cloud Storage to store audio files, which will be shared by users on AWS S3 or Google Cloud Storage, since they provide scalable, secure, and reliable facilities. So, it's really interesting because, like, obviously it chose what we would consider, like I said, to be a pretty good stack, but then you can also have it like write the code. And one thing that I've been trying to do is recently is to just have it write method stubs. And I have a few reasons for this that I feel at the start of this article here, is that they don't eat up that many tokens is the main thing. They're very easy to read. You can leave them in comment form, and then you can just literally copy paste them into Visual Studio Code for Visual Studio Code to actually do the further work on method, because a lot of the time when you're coding, it's going to be error ridden anyway, and you're not going to be able to get the errors out immediately, right? So here's our method stubs for the front end component. So we have React, we have musical trolls, we have our constructor, we have handle recording, stop recording, handle play audio, and then rendering it, right? And this handles playing, this handles like the recording workflow, and this is the state that's going to say like where's the user at in the app and stuff like that. And then yeah, this basically tells you what it would do with these. And again, like I said, this is I think one of the kind of like perfect levels to lead the code, because if you've ever written code before with GPT, it can kind of ramble, right? It can get really long. So let me see if I can find another example here really quick, like the poem recorder. So it is actually writing out all this code, but then you'll run into an error like this, right? You'll get like a ENOENT error or something like that, right? And something will break. So you don't really want to worry about that, at least initially, because that's going to be all in the implementation details anyway, right? So let's go back here and just take a look at I think we're pretty much set up here, but I just wanted to show that it can do the same thing for something like the socket.io, where, you know, that's another part that people have struggled with. I know that I've struggled with in the past, writing WebSockets. So being able to just, you know, quickly know what functions you need is actually a great place to get started, right? And it tells you what to do to like kind of get these you know, these different rooms that you might even create and stuff like that, as like kind of starter rooms. You can imagine that this is kind of like the writer's block for programming. When it's creating these stubs for you, it gives you a really good place to start your inference. So yeah,